Chapter 11 of Potash and Perlmutter, Their Co-Partnership, Ventures and Adventures. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Potash and Perlmutter, Their Co-Partnership, Ventures and Adventures, by Montague Glass. Chapter 11. The trouble with us, Morris, Abe Potash declared one afternoon in September, is that we ain't in an up-to-date neighborhood. We should get it a loft in one of them buildings up in 17th, 18th, or 19th Street, Morris. All the trade is up in that neighborhood. I ain't got such a good head for figures like you got, Abe, Morris Perlmutter replied. And so I'm content we should stay where we are. We done it always a fair business here, Abe, ain't it? Sure, I know, Abe went on. But the ways with out-of-town buyers, Morris, they goes where the crowd is, and they ain't going to be bothered to come away downtown for us, Morris. Well, how about Klinger and Klein and Lapidus and Ellenbogen and all them people, Abe? Morris asked. Ain't them out-of-town buyers going to buy goods off them neither? Klinger and Klein already hired at a fine loft on 19th Street, Abe interposed. Well, Abe, Morris rejoined, Klinger and Klein, like a whole lot of people that I know, acts like monkeys, Abe. They see somebody doing something and they got to do it too. If we could do the business what Klinger and Klein done it, Morris, I'm willing I should act like a monkey. Another thing, Abe, Morris went on, Klinger and Klein sends their work out by contractors. We got it operators and machines, Abe. You can't have a showroom, cutting room, and machines all in one loft, ain't it? Well, then we get it two lofts, Morris, and then we could put our workrooms upstairs and our showroom and offices downstairs. And double our expenses too, Abe, Morris added. No, Abe, I don't want it to work for no landlord all my life. But I seen Marks Hennickstein yesterday, Morris, and he told me Klinger and Klein ain't paying half the rent what they pay down here. So if we could get it two floors, we wouldn't increase our expenses, Morris, and could do it maybe twice the business. Marks Hennickstein is a real estater, Abe, Morris replied, and when a real estater tells you something, you got to make allowances 50% for facts. I know, Abe cried, but we don't have to hire no loft what we don't want to, Morris. Hennickstein can't compel you to pay twice it as much as what we're paying now, ain't it? So what is the harm if we should ask maybe him to find a couple of lofts for us, ain't it? All right, Abe, Morris concluded. If I must go crazy listening to you talk about it, I sooner move first. So go ahead and do what you like. Well, the fact is, said Abe, I told Marks Hennickstein he should find it a couple of lofts for us this morning, Morris, agreeing strictly that we should not pay him nothing as he gets a commission from the landlord already. Morris received this admission with a scowl. For a fellow that's got such a nerve like you got it, Abe, he declared, I'm surprised you should make such a poor salesman. When a man's got it a back number partner, Morris, his hands is full inside and outside the store, and so naturally he loses it a few customers once in a while, Abe replied. But somebody's got to have a nerve in business, Morris, and if I waited for you to make suggestions, we would never get nowhere. Morris searched his mind for an appropriate rejoinder, and had just formulated a particularly bitter jibe when the store door opened to admit two shabbily dressed females. Here, you, Abe called. Operators goes around the alley. The elder of the two females drew herself up haughtily. Operators? She said with a scornful rising inflection. Finishes also, Abe continued. This here door's for customers. You don't know me, Potash, she retorted. Might you don't know this lady neither, maybe? She indicated her companion, who turned a mournful gaze upon the astonished Abe. But we know you, Potash, she went on. We know you already when you didn't have it so much money what you got now. Her companion nodded sadly. So, Potash, she concluded, your own wife's people is operators and finishers, what? Abe looked at Morris, who stood grinning broadly in the showroom doorway. Give me an introduction once, Abe, Morris said. You don't have to give us no introduction, the elder female exclaimed. Me, I am Mrs. Sarah Moshkowitz, and this here lady is my sister, Mrs. Bloomer Sheikman. Geborn Smolinski. This ain't my fault that you got them names, Abe said. I see it now that you're my wife's father's brother's daughter, ain't it? So if you're going to make a touch, make it. I got a business to tend to. We ain't going to make no touch, Potash, Mrs. Moshkowitz declared. We would rather die first. All right, Abe replied heartlessly. Die if you gotta. You can't make me mad. Mrs. Moshkowitz ignored Abe's repartee. We don't ask for nothing for ourselves, Potash, she said. But we got a sister, your wife's own cousin, Miriam Smolinski. She wants to get married. I'm agreeable, Abe murmured, and I'm sure my Rosie ain't got no objections neither. Mrs. Sheikman favored him with a look of contempt. What chance has a poor girl got to get married? She asked. When she ain't got $1 in the world, Mrs. Moshkowitz added, and her own relatives from her own blood is millionaires already. If you mean me, Abe replied, I ain't no millionaire, I can assure you, far from it. Plenty of money you got it, Potash, Mrs. Moshkowitz said. $500 to you is to me like 10 cents. Hey, don't think no more of $500 than you do for your life, lady. Morris broke in with a raucous laugh. Do me the favor, Morris, Abe cried, and tend to your own business. Sure, Morris replied as he turned to go. I thought I was helping you out, Abe, that's all. He repaired to the rear of the store while Abe piloted his two visitors into the showroom. Now, what is it you want from me? He asked. Not a penny she got, Mrs. Moshkowitz declared, breaking into tears. And she got a fine young fellow what is willing to marry her and wants it only $500. Only $500, Mrs. Sheikman moaned. Only $500, oy vey. $500, Abe exclaimed. If you think you should cry till you get $500 out of me, you got a long, wet spell ahead of you. That's all I got to say. Might he would take $250, maybe, Mrs. Sheikman suggested hopefully through her tears. Don't let him do no favors on my account, Abe said. Because if it was 250 buttons, I wouldn't make no difference to me. A fine young fella, Mrs. Moshkowitz sobbed. He got 6 machines and $200 saved up, and he wants to go into the cloak and suit contracting business. Only $100 if the poor girl had it, Mrs. Sheikman burst forth again. Maybe he would be satisfied. It's enough, Abe roared. I heard enough already. He banged a sample table with his fist, and Mrs. Sheikman jumped in her seat. That's a heart what you got, she said bitterly. Like Haman. Haman was a pretty good fellow already compared to me, Abe declared, and I also got a business to attend to. Come, Sarah, Mrs. Sheikman cried. What's the use talking to a bloodsucker like him? Wait, Mrs. Moshkowitz pleaded. I want to ask him one thing more. If Miriam got at this young fella for a husband, might you would give him some of your work, maybe? Bloodsuckers don't give no work to nobody, Abe replied firmly. And also, will you get out of my store, or will you be put out? He turned on his heel without waiting for an answer and joined Morris in the rear of the store. 10 minutes later, he was approached by Jake, the shipping clerk. Mr. Potash, Jake said, them 2 ladies in the showroom wants to know if you would maybe give that party they was talking about a recommendation to the president of the Kosciuszko Bank. Tell him, Abe said, I'll give him a recommendation to a policeman if they don't get right out of here. The only way what a fella should deal with a nervy proposition like that, Morris, is to squish it in the bud. In matters pertaining to real estate, Marx Henickstein held himself to be a virtuoso. If anyone can put it through, I can, was his motto, and he tackled the job of procuring an uptown loft for Potash and Perlmutter with the utmost confidence. In the first place, he said, when he called the next day, you boys has got too much room. Boys, Morris exclaimed. Since when did we go to school together, Henickstein? Anyhow, you got too much room, ain't you? Henickstein continued, his confidence somewhat diminished by the rebuff. You could get your workrooms and showrooms all on one floor, and besides, Morris raised his hand like a traffic policeman halting an obstreperous truckman. It's enough, Henickstein, he said. It's enough about that. We ain't giving you no pointers in the real estate business, and we don't want no suggestions about the cloak and suit business neither. We asked you to get us 2 lofts on 17th, 18th, or 19th Street, the same size as here, and for the same what we paid it in here rent. If you can't do it, let us know, that's all, and we get somebody else to do it, you understand? Oh, I can do it all right. Sure he can do it, Abe said encouragingly. And I'll bring you a list as big as a telephone directory tomorrow, Henochstein added as he went out. But all the same, boys, I mean Mr. Perlmutter, I don't think you needed all that space. That's a fresh real estater for you, Abe, Morris said after Henochstein left. Wants to tell us our business and call us boys yet, like we was friends from the old country already. Oh, I don't know, Morris, Abe replied. He means it good, I guess. And anyway, Morris, we give so much of our work out by contractors, we might as well give the whole thing out and be done with it. We might as well have one loft with the cutting room in the back and a rack for piece goods. Then the whole front, we could fit it up as an office and showroom yet, and we would have no noise of the machines and no more trouble with garment makers, unions, nor nothing. I think it's a good idea sending out all the work. Them contractors make enough already on what we give 'em, Abe, Morris replied. I bet you Satinstein buy real estate on what he makes from us, Abe, and Ginsberg and Kaplan also. Well, the fact is, Morris, Abe went on, I ain't at all satisfied with the way what Satinstein treats us, Morris, nor Ginsberg and Kaplan neither. I got an idea, Morris. We should give all our work to a decent, respectable young fellow what is going to marry a cousin of my wife by the name Miriam Smolinski. Morris looked long and hard at Abe before replying. So, Abe, he said, you squashed it in the bud? Well, them 2 women goes right up and sees my Rosie yesterday, Morris, Abe admitted. And so my Rosie thinks it wouldn't do us no harm that we should maybe give the young feller a show. Is your wife Rosie running this business, Abe, or are we? Morris asked. It ain't a question what Rosie thinks, Morris, Abe explained. It's what I think, too. I think we should give the young feller a show. He's a decent, respectable young fella, Morris. How do I know that, Abe? Morris replied. I ain't never seen him, Abe. I don't even know his name. What difference does that make, Morris? Said Abe. I ain't never seen him either, Morris. I don't know his name, too, but he can make up our line just as good, whether his name is Tomasevsky or Murphy. Also, what good would it do us if we didn't see him first? I'm sure, Morris, we ain't giving out our work to Satinstein because he's a good-looking fella. And Ginsberg and Kaplan ain't no John Drews neither, so for what I hear, Morris. That ain't the idea, Abe, Morris broke in. The idea is that we got to give up doing our work in our own shop and send it out by a contractor just starting in as a new beginner already, a young fellow what you don't know what I don't know, Abe. And all this we got to do just because you want it, Abe? Me, I'm nothing here, Abe, and you are everything. You're all the dog and I'm the tail. You're the automobile and I'm the smell, and that's the way it goes. Who says that, Morris? Abe interposed. I didn't say that. You didn't say that, Abe, Morris went on. But you think it just the same, and I'm going to show you differently. I'm content that we move, Abe, only we ain't going to move unless we find the 2 lofts for the same rent what we paid here, and we ain't going to have no less room than what we got it neither, Abe, because if we are going to move to do our own business just the same like we do it here, and that's flat. For the remainder of the day, Abe avoided any reference to their impending removal, and it was not until Henochstein entered the showroom the following morning that the discussion was renewed. Well, boys, he said in greeting, I got it a fine loft for you on 19th Street, with twice as much floor space as what you got here. A loft? Morris cried. A loft, Henochstein repeated. 1 loft? Morris asked. That's what I said, Henochstein replied. 1 loft with twice as much floor space, and it's got light on all. Morris waved his hand for silence. Abe, he said, this here Henochstein is a friend of yours, ain't it? Abe nodded sulkily. Well, take him out of here, Morris advised, before I kick him out. He banged the showroom door behind him and repaired to Wasserbauer's cafe and restaurant across the street to await Henochstein's departure. Morris is right, Abe declared. You was told distinctively we wanted a 2 lofts, not 1, and he had come back with a 1 loft proposition. Henochstein rose to leave. If you think you could get 2 up-to-date lofts on 17th, 18th, or 19th Street, Abe, for what you pay here in this dinky place, he said, you got another thing coming. He opened the showroom door. And also, Abe," he concluded, "if I got a partner what made it a slave of me like Perlmutter does you, I'd go it alone. That's all I got to say." After Henochstein left, Abe was a prey to bitter reflections, which were only interrupted by his partner's return to the showroom a quarter of an hour later. "Well, Abe," Morris cried, "you got your turn here at this moving business. Let me try a hand at it once." "Go ahead, Morris," Abe said wearily. "You always get your way anyhow. You say I'm the dog, Morris. You're the tail, but I guess you got it the wrong way around. I guess the tail is on the other foot." Morris shrugged. "That's something what is past already, Abe," he replied. "I was just talking to Wasserbauer, and he says he's got it a friend with a sort of a real estater and smart young fella by the name of Sam Slotkin. He says if Slotkin couldn't find us at a couple of lofts, nobody couldn't." "I'm satisfied, Morris," Abe said. "If Slotkin can get us our lofts, we move. Otherwise, we stay here. So far, we made it always a living here, Morris, and I guess we ain't got to lose all our customers if we don't move, and that's all there is to it." Mr. Sam Slotkin was doubtless his own ideal of a well-dressed man. All the contestants in a chess tournament could have played on his clothes at one time, and the ox-blood stripes of his shirt exactly matched the color of his necktie and socks. He had concluded his interview with Morris on the morning following Henochstein's fiasco before Abe's arrival at the office, and he was just leaving as Abe came in. "Who's that, Morris?" Abe asked, staring after the departing figure. "That's Sam Slotkin," Morris replied. "He looks like a bright young fella." "I bet you he looks bright," Abe commented. "He looks so bright in them vaudeville clothes that it almost gives me eye strain. I suppose he says he can get us the lofts." "Sure," Morris answered. "He says he can fix us up all right." "I hope so," Abe said skeptically, and at once repaired to the office. It was the tail end of a busy season, and Abe and Morris found no time to renew the topic of their forthcoming removal until 2 days later, when Sam Slotkin again interviewed Morris. The result was communicated to Abe by Morris after Slotkin's departure. "He says, Abe, that he thinks he's got the very place for us," Morris said. "He thinks he's got it, Morris?" Abe exclaimed. "Well, we can't rip out a store here on the strength of a think, Morris. When will he know if he's got it?" "Tomorrow morning," Morris replied, and went upstairs to the workroom, where the humming of the many machines testified to the last rush of the season's work. Abe joined him there a few minutes later. "Believe me, Morris," he said, "I'll be glad when this here order for the fashion store is out." "It takes a week yet, Goldman tells me," Morris replied, "and I guess we might have to work nights if they don't make it hurry up." "Well, we're pretty late with that fashion store delivery as it is, Morris," Abe replied. "It wouldn't hurt none if we did work nights, Morris. We ought to get that order out by the day after tomorrow yet." "You speak to him, Abe," Morris retorted, indicating the working force by a wave of his hand. "What have I got to do with it?" Abe asked. "You're the inside man, Morris." "To my sorrow, Abe," said Morris, "and if you was the inside man you would know it that if I told them they was working on a rush order they'd strike for more money already. And yet, Morris, you ain't in favor of giving out work by contractors?" Abe cried as he walked away. The next morning Sam Slotkin was waiting in the showroom before Abe or Morris arrived. When they entered he advanced to meet them with a confident smile. "I got it the very thing you want, Mr. Perlmutter," he said. "A fine loft on 19th Street." "A loft?" Abe exclaimed. "A fine loft," Slotkin corrected. "How big a loft?" Morris asked. "Well, it's maybe twice as big as this here," Slotkin replied. "You can get into all your machines and have cutting room and showroom and office besides." "That sounds pretty good, Abe," Morris commented. "Don't you think so, Abe?" Abe pulled off his coat with such force that he ripped the sleeve lining. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Making jokes with me?" "And it's only $20 more a month as you're paying here," Slotkin concluded. $20 more a month won't make or break us, Abe," Morris said. "It won't, eh?" Abe roared. "Well, that don't make no difference, Morris. You said you wanted it 2 lofts, and we got to have it 2 lofts. How do you think we're going to sell goods and keep our books, Morris, if we have all the machines kicking up a racket on the same floor?" "Well, Abe, we could send our work out by contractors, maybe," Morris answered, with all the vivacity of a man suggesting a new and brilliant idea. Abe stared at his partner for a minute. "What's the matter with you, Morris, anyway?" he asked at length. "First you say we must have two lofts and keep our work in our own shop, and now you turn right around again." "I got to talking it over with Minnie last night," Morris replied, "and she thinks maybe if we give our work out by contractors we wouldn't need it to stay down so late, and that they wouldn't keep the dinner waiting for an hour or so every other night. We lose the two good girls already by it in 6 months." "Who is running this business, Morris?" Abe roared. "Minnie or us?" Sam Slotkin listened with a slightly bored air. Gentlemen," he said, "what's the use of it you making all this disturbance? The loft is light on all 4 sides with 2 elevators. Also, it is already big enough for—" "What are you butting in for?" Abe shouted. "What business is it of yours, anyhow?" "I am the broker," Sam Slotkin replied with simple dignity. "And also you're going to take that loft. Otherwise I lose a $300 commission. And besides—" "My partner is right," Morris interrupted. "You ain't got no business to say what we will or will not do. And if we want to take it, we'll take it. Otherwise not." "Don't worry," Sam Slotkin cried. "You will take it all right, and I'll be back this afternoon for an answer." He put on his hat and left without another word, while Abe and Morris looked at each other in blank amazement. "That's a real estater for you," Abe said. "Henochstein's got a pretty good nerve, Morris, but this feller acts so independent, like a doctor or a lawyer." Morris nodded and started to hang up his hat and coat, but even as his hand was poised halfway to the hook it became paralyzed. Simultaneously Abe looked up from the column of the Daily Cloak and Suit Record, and Miss Cohen, the bookkeeper, stopped writing, for the hum of the sewing machines, which was as much a part of their weekday lives as the beating of their own hearts, had suddenly ceased. Abe and Morris took the stairs leading to the upper floor 3 to jump, and arrived breathlessly in the workroom just as 50-odd employees were putting on their coats preparatory to leaving. "What's the matter?" Abe gasped. "Strike," Goldman, the foreman, replied. "A strike!" Morris cried. "What for a strike?" Goldman shrugged his shoulders. "Comes a walking delegate by the opposite side of the street and makes with his hands motions," he explained. "So they goes out on strike." Few of the striking operators could speak English, but those that did nodded their corroboration. "For what you strike?" Morris asked them. "Must strike," one of them replied. "When working delegates say must strike, we must strike." Sadly, Abe and Morris watched their employees leave the building, and then they repaired to the showroom. "There goes $2,000, Morris," Abe said. "For so sure as you live, Morris, if we don't make that delivery to the fashion store inside of a week, we get a cancellation by the next day's mail, ain't it?" Morris nodded gloomily, and they both remained silent for a few minutes. "Morris," Abe said at last, "where's that loft what Slotkin gives us?" "What do you want to know for?" "I'm going to go right up and have a look at it," Abe replied. "I'm sick and tired of this here strike business." Morris heaved a great sigh. "I believe you, Abe," he said. "The way I feel it now, we'll sell for junk every machine what we got." Forthwith Abe boarded a car for uptown, and when he returned 2 hours later he found Goldman discussing ways and means with Morris in the showroom. "Well, Abe," Morris cried, "what for a loft you seen it?" Abe hung up his hat deliberately. "I tell you the truth, Morris," he said, turning around. "The loft ain't bad. It's a good-looking loft, Morris. Only it's certain sure we wouldn't have no machines in that loft." "Oy vey!" Goldman exclaimed, rocking to and fro in his chair and striking his head with his clenched fist. "Nu, Goldman," Morris asked, "what's the trouble with you?" "Trouble's enough he got it, Morris," Abe said, as he watched Goldman's evolutions of woe. "If we do away with our machines he loses his job, ain't it?" Sympathy seemed only to intensify Goldman's distress. "Better than that, he should make dizzy at my stomach to watch him, Abe," Morris said. "I got a suggestion." Goldman ceased rocking and looked up. "I got a suggestion, Abe," Morris went on. "We sell it our machines on long terms of credit to Goldman, and he should go into the contracting business, ain't it?" "Ay vey!" Goldman cried again and commenced to rock anew. "Stop it, Goldman!" Abe yelled. "What's the trouble now?" "What show does a feller got when it starts as a new beginner on the cloak contracting already?" Goldman wailed. "Well," Abe replied, "you could get our work." Morris seized on this as a happy compromise between his own advocacy of Ginsberg and Kaplan and the rival claims of Abe's wife's relations. "Sure," he agreed. "We will give him the work what we give now to Satinstein and Ginsberg and Kaplan." Goldman's face spread into 1,000 wrinkles of joy. "You saved my life," he exclaimed. "Only he got to agree by a lawyer he should make it up our work a whole lot cheaper as they did," Morris concluded. Goldman nodded vigorously. "Sure," he said. "And also he got to help us call off this strike," Abe added. "I do my bestest," Goldman replied. "Only we got to see it the varking delegate first and fix it up with him." "Who is this walking delegate, anyhow?" Morris asked. Goldman scratched his head to aid his memory. "I remember it now," he said at last. "It's a fellow by the name of Sam Slotkin." When Abe and Morris recovered from the shock of Goldman's disclosure, they vied each other in the strength of their resolutions not to move into Sam Slotkin's loft. "I wouldn't pay it not 1 cent blackmail either," Abe declared, "not if they kept it up strike for a year." "Better as we should let that sucker do us, Abe," Morris declared. "I would go out of business first, ain't it?" Abe nodded, and after a few more defiant sentiments they went upstairs with Goldman to estimate the amount of work undone on the fashion store order. "Them fashion people was always good customers of ours, too, Morris," Abe commented, "and we couldn't send the work out by contractors in this shape. It would ruin the whole job." Morris nodded sadly. "If we could only get them devils of operators to finish up," he said, "they could strike till they was blue in the face yet." "But I wouldn't pay 1 cent to that sucker Slotkin, Morris," Abe added. "Sure not," Morris agreed. "Might you wouldn't have to pay him nothing, maybe," Goldman suggested. "What do you mean?" Abe cried. "Might if you would take it the loft and he would call off the strike," said Goldman. "That's so, Morris," Abe murmured, as though this phase of the matter had just occurred to him for the first time. "Maybe Goldman is right, Abe," Morris replied. "Maybe if we took it the loft, Slotkin would call off the strike." "After all, Morris," Abe said, "the loft ain't a bad loft, Morris. If it wasn't such a good loft, Morris, I would say it so. No, Morris, we should take the loft, but the loft is a first-class A No. 1 loft." "It's enough, Abe," Morris replied. "You don't have to tell me it 100 times already. I ain't disputing it's a good loft, and if Slotkin calls off the strike, we could take the loft." At this juncture the store door opened and Slotkin himself entered. "Good afternoon, gents," he said. Morris and Abe greeted him with a scowl. "I suppose you come for an answer about that loft, huh?" Morris snorted. Slotkin stared at Abe indignantly. "Excuse me, Mr. Perlmutter," he said. "I ain't here as a broker. I'll see you later about that already. I come here now as a varking delegate." "Sure, I know," Abe replied. "When you call it a strike on us this morning, you ain't got nothing to do with our not taking the loft. We believe that, Slotkin, so go ahead and tell us something else." "It makes me no difference whether you believe it or you don't believe it, Mr. Potash," Slotkin went on. "All I got to say is that you signed it in agreement with the union, ain't it?" "Sure we signed it," said Abe, "and we kept it, too. We pay 'em always union prices, and we keep it union hours." "Prices and hours is all right," Slotkin said, "but in the agreement stands that you should give him a proper place to work in it." "Well," Morris cried, "ain't it a proper place here to work in it?" Slotkin shook his head. "As varking delegate, I seen it already. I seen at your shop where your operators work," he commenced, "and—" "Why, you ain't never been inside our shop," Goldman cried. "I seen it from the outside, from the street already, and as a varking delegate it is my duty to call on a strike," Slotkin continued. "What's the matter with the workroom?" Abe asked. Well, the neighborhood ain't right, Slotkin explained. It's a narrow street already. It should be on a wider street, like 19th Street. He paused to note the effect, and Morris grunted involuntarily. Also, Slotkin continued, it needs a light on 4 sides and 2 elevators. And I suppose if we hire it such a loft, Slotkin, Abe broke in, you will call off the strike? Sure I will call off the strike, he declared. It would be my duty as a working delegate. I must call off the strike. All right, then, Abe said. Call off the strike. We made up our mind. We'll take the loft. You mean you will take such a loft what union agreement calls for, in which I just described it to you? Slotkin corrected in his quality of walking delegate. That's what we mean, Abe replied. Why, then, that loft what I called to your attention as broker this morning would be exactly what you would need it, Slotkin exclaimed, in the hearty tones of a conscientious man, glad that for once the performance of his official duty redounded to a clean-handed personal profit. Sure, Abe grunted. Then as broker, I tell you that the leases is ready down at Henry D. Feldman's office, Slotkin replied, and as soon as they are signed, the strike is off. A week later, the fashion store's order was finished, packed, and shipped, and on the same day that Goldman, the foreman, dismissed the hands, he went down to Henry D. Feldman's office. There he signed an agreement with Potash and Perlmutter to make up all their garments in the contracting shop, which he proposed to open the first of the following month. "Where are you going to have it, your shop, Goldman?" Morris asked, after they had returned from Feldman's. "That I couldn't tell it you just yet," Goldman replied. "We ain't quite decided yet." "We?" Abe cried excitedly. "Who's we?" "Well, I expected to get a partner for a couple of $100," Goldman said. "But anyhow, Mr. Potash, I got some cards printed next week, and I send you one." "All right," Abe replied. "Only let me give you a piece of advice, Goldman. If you get it a partner, don't make no mistake and have some fellow what wants to run you and the business and everybody else, Goldman." The thrust went home, and Morris stared fiercely at his partner. "And you should see it also that your wife's ain't got no relations, Goldman," he added. "Otherwise, he'll want you to share the profits of the business with them." Goldman nodded. "Oh, I got a good smart fella picked out, and his wife's relations will be all right, too," he said as he started to leave. "But anyhow, Mr. Perlmutter, I'll let you know next week." About 10 days afterward, while Morris and Abe were in the throes of packing prior to the removal of their business, the letter carrier entered with a batch of mail, and Morris immediately took it to the showroom. "Here, Abe," he said, as he glanced at the first envelope. "This is for you." Then he proceeded to go through the remainder of the pile. "Holy smokes!" he cried, as he opened the next envelope. "What's the matter?" Abe asked. "Is it a failure?" He had read his own letter and held it between trembling fingers as he inquired. "Look at this," Morris said, handing him a card. It was a fragment of a cheap pasteboard and bore the following legend: Philip Goldman, Sam Slotkin, Goldman and Slotkin, Cloak and Suit Contractors, Sponging and Examining, Pike Street, New York. Abe read the card and handed it back in silence. "Well, Abe," Morris cried, "that's a fine piece of business. We not only got to take it the loft what Slotkin picks out for us, but we also got to give Slotkin our work also." Abe shrugged his shoulders in an indifferent manner. "You always got to run things your way, Morris," he said. "If you let me do it my way, Morris, we wouldn't have had no strike, nor trouble, nor nothing, and it would have been the same in the end." "What do you mean?" Morris exclaimed. "Look at this here," Abe replied, handing him the letter. It was printed in script on heavily coated paper and read as follows: "Mrs. Sarah Mashkowitz and Mrs. Bluma Sheikman, sisters of the bride, request the honor of your company at the marriage of their sister, Miss Miriam Smolinski, to Sam Slotkin, on Sunday, October 3rd, 1907, at 7 p.m. sharp, Eureka Hall, Allen Street. Bride's residence, care of the Rothman's Corset Store, 425 Madison Avenue, New York City. Ladies and gents, wardrobe check, 50 cents. End of chapter 11.